Hello, welcome to Wednesday at 1. My name is Kenny Mammarella-D'Cruz and I am sat sitting behind Laurence Johns, who I met, was it 2007 or something?
It's got to be something like that.
Like 10 years or so ago, long time, through the ManKind project.
The ManKind project.
I did the ManKind project. It's now called the Adventure Training. It was called the New Warrior something or other.
Adventure Training.
Right.
And the Adventure.
Yeah. The Adventure. And it was a bit of adventure actually. 2005 I did it. And I heard about it actually when I lived in Australia. And I thought, I'll wait. I'm not going to do it in the UK. It's cold. I'll do it when I move back to Australia. But when it was time, it was time. And I've been running men's groups for about 5 years or something. So if I started, I can't do the maths, but I've been doing my groups for 16 years. So it must have been something like 5 years. And I thought, maybe I'm a blagger, or maybe I'm a narcissist, or maybe I like to be the leader and bully people and tell them what to do. And I thought, maybe it's time to get busted. So I did the training to check myself out, to see where and how I'm a blagger, where and how I could be a better man, a better person, to look for some half-decent blokes that I could think, yeah, I want to be like you, you and you. Not quite sure about you, but I'm really pleased you brought up the parts of me I don't like, etc., etc. Also, actually, here's another thing. I know I've been talking about, and I'll ask you about MKP in a sec. Here's another thing. After I've been around the whole personal development thing. Do you like the shirt? It's Bertie's. I sweated in mine. I did the whole personal development thing since the, say, mid to late 80s. And I did my own work, and I used to, with my marketing company, take self-awareness and personal development and courses and books and all of that to the mainstream. So I've been around it for a long time. And it was, there weren't that many blokes. When there were some blokes, they weren't necessarily blokey blokes very often. So I kind of found myself not just in the minority, but in some sort of a demand. And I wanted to go somewhere to do some work on myself, as it were, and to hang out with people and be open without having to think, there's some women looking at me or trying to kind of get in, or, you know, pushing. I didn't want part of my experience to be pushing away people who want relationships when I just want to be there with myself. So I thought, what a treat. A place to open up and explore and have an adventure with no women, so a men's space. So for me, none of that like kind of sexual undercurrent or the flirting or all of that, so I don't need to close down. And there I was.
Which obviously would have been a distraction if you were around. They'll all be on now.
Probably only just by being male and straight and single, that's enough. Because, you know, so many women have said to me, find me a decent man. Because to find a conscious, straight male for a woman, it's not that easy. It's just not that easy. So, you know, maybe as a sideline we should do a dating thing. So, how did you come to MKP and what's your story?
How did I come to MKP? I came to MKP, at the time I had a boss, and I was going through a bit of a difficult time, and my boss said to me, there's this weekend, I think you should go on. And I can't tell you about it. And it will either be the best weekend of your life or the worst weekend of your life. And he said, do you want to go on it? so part of me, little shadowy part, thought, it looks a bit like a cult. It would be handy to be in a cult with my boss.
I found the ladder.
And then so joined it, and done the weekend, and really never looked back from there, really. I've been involved continuously in the sort of men's groups that we run and leading those and the trainings we do, and taking more roles on in the weekend, and now being the training and outreach director of the organisation. So it really did create a fundamental shift in me.
Can you say from what to what, or is it not that easy?
I don't know what it was. I can tell you what it was that hooked me about it, and it was that for the first time ever, I'd always been quite good around men. Like I always knew how structures work and power play work, and I was pretty good at that game, you know. And for the first time when I was in MKP, I looked around and I said, here's a group of men, and I feel I can be completely authentic within it, even if it's showing parts of me I don't like. I don't feel that I'll be judged, and I feel I'll be held for it. And that was powerful for me. That was really powerful, because it was the first time I felt I don't have to be something else for recognition here. I don't have to pretend to be, in fact, the opposite. The more authentic I am by playing less.
So, not only did you find a space for you to be real, but you also found a space to unpack all the crap, the dark stuff, the hidden stuff, and not have to be an act or fraud or anything like that.
And have other men around me.
Important aspects as well about being a bloke. So, due to technical difficulties...
Yeah, that's what they say, we've been too radical.
Yeah, someone pulled the plug on us. But we were talking about nice things. What's that word again?
Pronoia.
Pronoia. Tell us about pronoia.
So someone introduced me to the word pronoia recently, which is the belief that lots of people are working for your benefit secretly behind your back. And I was just saying how, to me, that was how I felt when I done my weekend and got involved in MKP. There's men from all different walks of life, in all various different stages of development or wounds, or just coming together to create something for the benefit of other men. And that was radical to me. That was like, well, hang on, it's something I want to do.
That reminds me of my surprise. Actually, so here's the thing, when I did mine in 2005, it was September the 23rd. And I remember it was September the 23rd because it was my mother's birthday. Maybe it's the 22nd and I couldn't phone her on the 23rd, because I remember that I couldn't phone her for the first time. And the biggest freak out is I got a lift with a couple of blokes, and they were a bit, oh my God, what's this all going to be? And then of all things, we drive past my refugee camp. It was just down the road from my first home in the UK, which was my refugee camp. So mother stuff was up, refugee stuff was up, and then there was a house nearby that we had a very, very bad time between refugee camps. It drove around that roundabout and past the house. So it's as if the universe, what's the word, conspired to just make sure that I don't miss out on any of my shit that needs to come up. Exactly.
We'll be looking at that.
And then we parked our cars and all of that. And what was really, really, really impressive for me, because it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Friday, is it Friday night, Saturday and Sunday? And we got there, and they were as many, if I remember, volunteers supporting people as there were participants.
That's correct.
And that was wonderful. So it was quite a shock, exactly as you say, in the space that people were, well, men were dedicated to their own pathways, their own growth, and helping other people through.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Whether they've got their own issues or not, it doesn't really come into it, because who hasn't?
I mean, to me, that's the basis of men's work. You know, that we're all with in some way. Is it doesn't matter as long as the intent is that you're going to turn up for your own benefit and for the benefit of others. That in itself is a big enough step. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's a big enough. Yeah. That's a big enough leap.
And for me, that's very much the difference between a boy and a man. because I believe that boys compete and they are generally in fear or paranoia and surviving. So there's that panic reaction where men are maybe in touch with their feminine or their true masculine or their awareness or their centre enough to be able to collaborate, to be able to care, to be on the same side, and to respond rather than react. Would you say that's roughly fair?
I'd say it's roughly fair, although like it gets a bit complicated for me with sort of about men and boys, because there's lots of men walking around who are not like that.
Well, it's nothing to do with age.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's where it is for me. There's something about a sort of a healthy masculinity. There's something about a mature masculinity that has reached those bits, and that's what that's what we're trying to aspire to in some way, really. And that's so I would agree with that.
And with men having each other's backs, I remember, so I did my training in 2005, and then it was about 2007, 2008, when after the 3-day course, again correct me if I'm wrong, you either do another weekend or 10 evenings to kind of integrate that. 8 evenings to integrate the course with daily life or something.
Yeah, well, the follow-on course has 3 reasons really. One is to sort of integrate what you learn on the weekend, so revisit what you learn on the weekend with a bit more time, and also so you can learn how to be in a men's circle. You learn the basis of being in a men's circle, and just to get some more tools around emotional literacy and integrity and accountability, and to reconnect with purpose, because I think they're the sort of 3 cornerstones of what MKP is.
So say them again. About. Purpose.
So purpose, accountability, integrity. I would say they're 3 of the principles really. That if we connect, if I can connect with my purpose, with why I'm here. And that's about service, which I think is also a mature part, is I'm not here for me. I'm the best version of me when I'm helping others. That idea of community and purpose. Then if I connect with that purpose, am I then in integrity with the man that I need to be for that to happen? And it's the sort of balance between those two that helps me keep straight, that helps me keep that's the best version of me. When I have a purpose and I'm in integrity with that purpose.
I remember I actually met my best friend on the they call it a PIT, Primary Integration Training, and that's what you were running. And after being away for so many years, I just thought, I found out that I wasn't some dirty, stinking megalomaniac all the time, or enough, but So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to check back in and see what else they do, to see if there's anything else that I can learn, that I can bring and share with my own community, because the Men Speak community has grown, and it was growing a lot then. So the way that I reconnected with MKP was I redid this PIT thing over X number of evenings, and that's where I met my best friend. And I remember that he would always have holes in his jumpers, and I just thought, poor sod. And then I thought, but how do I give him a couple of my jumpers without him feeling bad? And it was like really dodgy, because but I didn't want to embarrass, and it was just normal to share. And I guess in this country I was a refugee, so it was just normal. It wasn't a problem to share and care and all of that. But yeah, we've been best friends for a long time now. But last night, talking about people having each other's backs, I was with a client last night, and we were doing some quite heavy work that he needed to do. And at some stage I said, so why have you chosen to pay for your friend's rent for a year and set them up in business? And he thought about it, because he's got a history of sometimes overdoing things and various issues. He thought about it, and with absolute clarity in his eye, he just said to me, provided information, it was no big deal, because it's my best friend. And what I'm hearing you say, and what I feel we have in Men Speak in my community, and I would say in the hearts and souls of people, is the normal willingness. It's not a willingness, it's almost like a natural flow to care, but so much says don't, or don't be stupid, or don't be a dummy, or compete, or what if they're loaded and they're hiding it, or you're always giving in other people's stuff. Exactly. But isn't it great to have, at least start with communities where we are allowed to be us, and then grow into who we are, let go of who we no longer need to be, and pass it on.
If you look at kind of versions of initiation that have existed, part of that was always I'm going to take you away, I'm going to show you you're not unique. Right? You are just part of this community. That's all. And it's more, and whatever culture that was, whatever village you were in, that was more important than you. The survival, that's more important than you. Your role is to serve. And then the last part of those initiating processes was, but guess what? You're unique, right? So you have a way to serve, and you're important because you're unique. So it's always that sort of paradox, really, of I'm just here to serve, but yet I'm unique, right? And I think that's where society may have swung, is to a place where we stick with that I'm unique first. I'm special, I'm unique, I'm the centre of the universe. And no one ever teaches us, no, you're not. So if you have just I'm unique without but I'm here to serve and and actually the bigger picture is more important than me, then you just get that sort of egotistical behaviour. Whereas if you get the two together, then you get people where it's okay to be great, it's okay to be magnificent, it's okay to be well known, right? That's great, it's great to be successful, but guess what? It's not all about you. And actually, you are a better version of yourself when you serve. I'm a better version of myself when I serve.
Yeah.
And that don't mean I have to spend my life being meek and less than. Actually, the opposite. I've really got sharp and bring all the skills I have to bear as a duty. Because that's how I can help contribute and make things better.
Because I know that the organisation's changed. I was on council for a while, and when I was, it wasn't a charity. It was what? A limited company or something?
Yes, it was just
right.
I guarantee it was just
right. I remember now, yeah. Because I remember in one of the meetings, does that mean that we're all liable? What does this mean? Because we were all, whatever it was, council members. Now that it's a co-op, if that's the right term.
We're charity.
Now that you're a charity. Does that mean that in any way you are changing as an organisation, working with other organisations, or what's changed?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing two things. I mean, we're keeping what we do really well, which is the trainings we run, and also which for some reason is on none of our advertising yet, but we're the largest provider of free peer-led men's groups in the UK. We currently have 50 men's groups in the UK, and there's no charge to those other than the contribution to the room. But what's changing for us as a charity is we're keeping that as we do. We do that really well. The adventure, we do that great. But we're looking at, and how do we bring more of that to the world? How do we bring more of that to the UK and Ireland? And so what we're doing is we're expanding the men's group section to a stage where you don't have to have done the training.
So at the moment, you have to have done the training.
For most.
Right.
There's some that are open.
Right.
There's some, we call them open or closed groups. We've got some that are open, but we're actually looking at nationwide increase in those
So,
dramatically.
excuse me, let's do this in 2 steps. First the trainings, then the groups. So who does the trainings usually? Do you notice there's a certain type of person, and how much does it cost?
So it's £595 to do the training, although still, and I'm really proud of that, it's never, in all the time I've been involved, I've never seen a man turn away because of money.
So people do ask to do it for free or cheap?
Bursaries. I mean, we feel that every man needs to contribute. You know, there are bursaries available, limited to each training, but we always find a way, even if it's staggered payments before or something, but we find a way. No one's ever been turned away because of money. And types, I mean, I would say we get people from all walks of life. It's changing a lot. It used to be a lot older. So even though I was quite young when I done it, I was like 27 years old or something. So how we were then, that was quite a young man to do the training. I'm seeing a lot more younger men coming to the work now. You know, I'm seeing men in their sort of early 20s turning up and really wanting to do the work. You know, and before it used to seem like men had to be around and being kicked about a bit more before they came around and said, I want to do something about it. But I think as a society we're changing, and men are more open. I think generally, I think it's changing. I think men are more open earlier on and question a lot more about what does it mean to be a man. What does that even mean? You know, so I think there's dialogue which are encouraging more men to come to the work, and also I think because the ripple effect is happening a lot more. There's more men who are now openly talking about their involvement in men's groups and stuff like that. More men want it. So it's a change in demographic.
Why do you think younger men are coming? How do they hear about it, or what's changed? Because when I went, and I don't remember, that's what, 15, 20 years ago or whatever, it was mainly middle-aged, middle-class white men. And most identified as heterosexual as well. But I would imagine those were the ones that were looking for something or could afford it or had the time, or I generally find when life is settled, that's when crack comes up. So I'm guessing that they were quite settled and stuff started to come up, and therefore they started looking for something, and I guess they could afford it. Where now I find with Men Speak, there are a lot of younger men, and it's a lot more across the board because of books like No More Mr. Nice Guy, Manhood, Stephen Biddulph, what's that?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I think it was, I think it was very white, middle-aged, middle class, and I think that may be because that's a point where people can question, and they have, the luxury of funds to be able to take time out to question.
Exactly.
I also think it's about men's work was kind of, it was below the waterline then.
Can you believe that people
really
care these days? Exactly. It's like totally do not talk about men very junk, and don't talk about mental health, and don't, because men are bad and stupid.
What that meant is, as an organisation like MKP or any of the men's organisations were around in that time, was it meant that because people weren't publicly talking about it, that like attracted like. Yeah. Everything was done through word of mouth.
Exactly.
And what's happening now is where people are now speaking out and say, yeah, I do this, or I do that, and it's great. We're getting access to more communities than we ever had access to before, because that like is now attracting a different like.
So are you going into communities?
So one of the things we've been doing as a charity is looking at what our outreach program is going to be, and that's why I'm around. And yes, so we're going to be looking at how before we had a model where people had to come to us to do the work, and now where we're bringing our circles out into the world a lot more.
Right.
We can take it to you. You know, we can take circles.
That is
to
an
areas.
absolutely huge shift.
Yeah.
Because when I was around, it was not that way. It was the other way around. Now that you're doing this, I think that's absolutely wonderful. So in that, how does it work with the men's groups? Because you're saying now you don't need to do the training in order to do the men's groups, and the men's groups are free apart from the contribution to the room or whatever. How does that work, and where are
So what will be, well, I mean, they will be being launched next year. We're in the process of putting the strategy together and looking at how we outreach it. What there'll be is the sort of specific number of nights hasn't really been worked out yet, but what there'll be is we'll be running two types of circle. So we'll be running an open circle, which is literally like a drop-in. Anyone can come, kind of a bit as a sort of like AA, NA model. It's like you just turn up if you want to be heard. Right? You can come once and never come again. But they'll be there and you can just drop in. And then there'll be open groups. And the open groups will be, you will have to commit for a certain amount of time first, and you'll go through some of the processes of how to be in the circle, so that you can get the best out of it with the other men, and then you just continue going. So there'll be something that's like a sort of introduction to men's circles, which will get you up to speed, and so you can support other men and be supported and have a language of responsibility, those sort of key things, and then you can just continue.
Is that something you can sum up, or is that something that you feel is more experiential? People need to come and find out how to hold a group.
Yeah, you know, I think it's something you need to experience.
Right.
I think it's something you need to experience. I mean, I think, what you can sum up is kind of how it works. You know, it's just men showing up for each other, and there's a set structure that helps build a circle and maintain the circle, and helps men get into a place where they can communicate with each other. It's all communication, really, as you know, and so they can communicate and speak freely and support each other and confidentiality and all those things. You know, so that's the sort of framework, but the experience that I got from being in the circles is very hard to sum up, because it was something like a guttural feeling. It was almost like it was somewhere where it felt completely natural, really. Although I thought this is going to be really weird, actually I've been craving it, and I kind of think that's because. Like we were talking about before, you know, I think there's a certain element bred into us as human beings that we're pack animals. And just as it can work negatively, where if I'm in a big group of men, my behaviour can get more and more outrageous and more boisterous because we're giving each other permission and egging each other on. A great men's group is just the opposite of that. Here's a group of us, and we want to help each other be better men, and we want to connect us with our purpose of why we're here, and we want to be happier, and we want to be more joyful, and we want to support those people in our lives more, and we want to be completely vulnerable with each other. And guess what? I start behaving that way, the other member of the group gets going that way, and we're egging each other on to be better men. So it's like, maybe what we need is not less of men getting together, but more of men getting together in a healthy way. And let's just see how good we could get. You know? We've done a few things historically to show how bad we can get. Let's have a little go and see how good we can get. You know?
Well, maybe it's the bad that demands attention, and the good is just not great common inches.
I mean, that's true. That is definitely true. Historically, men have done a lot of bad, and you know what, they've done a lot of good too. And it's just, you know, I can't speak for all men, but for me, just the awareness of, guess what, I get to choose. You know, it's not saying I'm a good man. That would be counterintuitive, really. There's bits of me that are really dark, and there's bits of me that are massively golden. And guess what, I get to choose. As long as I'm conscious And as long as I'm willing to look at the darkness and the light, then I get to choose. And for me, the men's group I'm in, that's what it helps me do. It helps me continuously look at my darkness, look at my light. What's the man I want to be? And let's help each other do that and challenge each other in a very. I mean, I think that's one of the elements of men's groups that people may not see from the outside is the challenge. How we can challenge each other, and quite a sort of hold each other to a firm edge.
Do you have? I wonder about things like videos or anything, so people can. I find that people, when they see themselves or someone who looks like them in a picture or a video, they think, oh yeah, I'm allowed. That person's like me. Do you have anything like that people can get an insight?
We're early stages.
Right.
This is like this is what we're rolling out now.
Right.
So we're looking at all that. We're looking at what content we need to produce. We're looking at it's early stages, but really exciting times for us as an organisation.
So where do people go to take the first step to find out what's going on, or to make contact, or to go? Do you have introductory evenings and stuff?
So yeah, lots of our groups have open groups, and what I would say is if you go onto the ManKind Project website, which is mankindprojectukni.org, we have kind of celebration evenings after the NWTAs have happened, and they're on our website, they're advertised on there and on our Facebook page, and I think they're a really good place to go to.
I used to bring a lot of men from my groups to the celebration evenings because it's good fun.
It's really good fun,
and it's a nice way to meet other people and get an insight.
Yeah, and so I think those and our open groups are a really good way to get introduction to what we're like.
It's interesting as well. I have there are men who have gone from the ManKind Project who've come to some of my groups, and whether they've stayed or not doesn't really matter, but they've come camping to do the camping thing, or for fires, or they've come to do the men facilitate training, to pick up tools to facilitate groups and things like that, and it's great. And vice versa, there have been people that I have said, I think it would be great for you to go and do this weekend. I guess more in the States than here, but here as well. And they've benefited. And there are very different personalities with MKP and my stuff, I'd say. And I would say with MKP, my experience of it was that it was, especially the training and the pit, was a lot more process and a lot more kind of pushing it and doing that kind of stuff, where mine are a lot more sitting in the circle and talking, and almost like there is maybe therapy or isolation or the old life, and then there are the groups, and then there's the daily world. So it's a kind of stepping stone. So I'd say they're quite different, where yours is a lot more get in there and do some hard work and turn it around and that kind of thing, where mine's a lot more day to day. So when you, just so I don't miss it, you said it's the ManKind Project UK and Ireland.co.uk.
Yeah, so that's mankindprojectuki.org.
Right, alright, okay. I thought you said and I was going to say, is it an and sign or an A and B? Right. And mine is, I think I've said it before, actually I don't know if you've seen this, ground rules, checking around, mensgroups.co.uk. And
now I've seen it because I'm a member of your meetup.
Oh, cool. So for me, with this, it's like you can download this from the website, and really it's about get chatting. And Bertie reminded me about, what's it called? Ask Twice. So Bertie and I were at the podcast recording of Time to Change, and I hope you remember these names because I don't know famous people very well. Who was the name?
Sue Baker.
Sue Baker, I remember. Sue Baker came to Time to Talk Day that we did at the RSA, which is all about mental health and communication. And I think we were talking before going on that a lot of men, one of the saddest things about men is isolation. Not knowing who to communicate with, how, or what's wrong with me is what I hear so often. And men are generally, this is one thing that I can say without flinching, that men are better at women at one thing, and that's committing suicide. The rates are absolutely shocking. So we've got very involved with things like Time to Talk Day and Time to Change. So we did that thing with Sue Baker, who's now the global director of Time to Change. But was it last week we went to the podcast? Whose podcast was it?
Russell Kane's
Russell Kane's podcast, and it's called Boys Don't Cry. And that was great. It was all about men, isolation, what's up with men, blah, blah, blah. And I hope I didn't piss him off, actually, because he seems to want to take the piss. As everyone seems to want to take the piss. Men are stupid.
It's an easy time.
Exactly. Men don't do this. Well, what about giving energy to what men are doing and how to sort it out, which is basically showing up, hanging out, talking and making some change?
Well, there's a massive generalisation that I hear a lot as soon as I say I'm involved in men's work. And they go, that must be really hard because men just don't open up.
Which is such bollocks.
I've never experienced that. It's true.
Given half a chance.
Half time you can't stop it. You're just like, right now, enough now.
Unless, I believe that the reason a lot of people will say men won't open up is as soon as they do, they're second guessed or they're told they're wrong or bad or stupid. So what's the point of opening up if there's nowhere to open up?
It's about creating spaces.
Exactly.
It's about creating spaces. But I've found that as soon as I meet a man in a way where I'm showing my own vulnerability and I'm showing that I'm open, then he's more than ready to meet me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of circles, it's the beauty of sitting in a circle with men.
Yeah.
Is I experience men as very open, very emotional. And yeah, so I get asked that in interviews and stuff all the time as well. How do you deal with men because they don't open up? And they're not. And it comes back to what you're saying about isolation. They're closed if they're isolated. I'm closed if I'm isolated. If I open up, if there's a place for me to go, if there's a place for me to be seen and to see and to hear and be heard, then I'm open.
I also find that the more isolated a person, and another sad fact is I'm realising more and more that men very often don't have friends, true friends or real friends, and it's the ones that don't that have thicker, stronger walls. Because they're just not used to negotiating, opening up, sharing, playing, whatever. So it's the isolation and it's the lack of practice, maybe the mistrust of men. I don't know about, well, I do know about MKP because I met a lot of boarding school boys through MKP. And I've worked with a lot of them privately. It's like the boarding school boys can be boarding school boys until their dying day, unless they are shown that they are no longer in boarding school and they can play different roles and they're not surviving that anymore. Yeah. And who are you really? And who are you beyond what happened? And who are you beyond all the things that you haven't talked about? It's like spew them out and make sense and get up to date.
It's an interesting thing you say because they're mainly people who are watching this who think boarding school boys, well, they've had it all.
Right? That is so common, isn't it?
They've had the best education, they've had all this and all that. A lot of men I meet who've been through boarding school, I weren't, I'm from the other side of the track of that, but they see themselves as survivors.
Yeah.
They were cut away from the family, sent away at a very young age, raised largely by other boys who were older than them. It's not a great environment. It's not a great environment, and it's those sort of things. It's we all, everyone makes assumptions, and I make assumptions, and this getting men together is just another way of breaking up someone's assumptions, and that's another reason why it works.
I find very often with the boarding school boys, sadly, even though they have everything crossed off their list, whether it's money, status, wife, kids, God knows how many cars or houses or whatever, if I've got everything, then am I allowed to be sad? Am I allowed to be lonely, lost? How do I fix this? And again, it's what's wrong with me. And I find generally it's the most privileged and the most, I guess, desolate that are most likely to want to commit suicide. It's either they've got everything and they are nothing, or they've got nothing and they can't fix it.
Yeah.
And that's just devastating, because it's true. People point the finger at the boarding school boys. They don't know any different. And I know from most of the boarding school boys that I've worked with, it's you're in school, your heart's broken, you're abandoned, you're isolated, and you're put to work quick, because if you're not busy, you're going to feel something, and it's not an option to feel. And then feeling is cut off from such an early age. And then obviously survival and life carries on without this feeling. And then we get back to the core of it, and they start to feel again. And they start to really be able to share and care.
Yeah.
Where if they're not trained, or if that sharing and caring, if they're disconnected from their hearts at an early age, then who's got the right to point the finger and say, well, you're heartless, you're cold, you don't care, you don't get it? Fair enough. Is that helpful? No. Same as everyone, they need a hand.
Yeah, and then you flip it over and you have people at the other end of the scale who weakness meant you wouldn't survive.
Yeah.
You know, so you have the same thing, and I think one of the blessings of being involved in mentor for so long for me is that I see it as purely subjective. Each person at some time is going to go through loss and pain and anxiety, and we can't weigh against someone else's pain because we've only had this life, and I've only had this pain.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest pain I've ever felt.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I start getting into a race to the bottom of who suffered the more, then that's kind of what it is. And of course, some people suffer massively in their lives more than other people, but we all suffer a bit, and that means we all deserve somewhere to go.
And irrespective of the magnitude of suffering, I'd say it's about the relationship to the suffering. And maybe my paper cut has caused me more stress than someone that did a brick at the back of your head. Do you know what I mean? How can you compare?
1:53 p.m.
Oh my God, we're running out of time. What haven't we said? What haven't you said that you thought you might say, and what haven't I said? I don't know. I just wanted to hang out.
Yeah, I think we were sort of touching on it at the end. Is that I think I would like to get away from this sort of idea of the groups and stuff like that are for people that have really suffered.
That's a really good point.
Yes, it is. You know, bring it, right? And bring it. It's welcome. It's all welcome. But so is the person who doesn't even know why they're sad.
Yeah.
So is the person who, do you know what? Maybe they're not sad, but they just want to celebrate themselves a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's room for them too.
Yeah.
And I think it's just moving away from a place of here's how do we fix all the time, and just to a place of, do you know what? It's not about fixing. Sometimes it's just about experiencing together, and just a place to share what's going on with you, and just to connect. It's just a connection, and you don't. You're not going to be judged on the weight of your suffering or what you carry. It's not a sort of suffering Olympics. It's let's get together and just help each other be as happy as we can be by the time we're here.
There's another part I find, as well as that. I find a lot of men have outgrown their community, their friendship circle. A lot of men don't want to do drink, drugs, money, whatever it is they're used to competing with. They've kind of outgrown that, or they've outgrown their lives, they're in a new phase, or it could be, and I'm surprised how often this is, the men that haven't been around men and who are scared of men. And this could have been since they were boys. They've always hung out with the girls and they want to know who they are as males. And I get quite a lot of those. So it's interesting the reasons why men come. And as you say, it's not all suffering.
It's all different reasons.
And I like that it's generally people who want more.
Yeah. And I mean, and going on from what you're talking about, there's an interesting thing that happened historically, I think, where like pre kind of agricultural industrial revolution, there would have been a time where very young boys would have gone with dad. They would have gone to the field with dad. They would have got, because they would have been useful. Grab me that tool, pick me that. They would have gone out with dad until they became useful. And come the kind of industrial revolution where we start building factories where people go to work and you're no longer working in the community, we build these places where you need to go. Well then guess what? The boys were left at home without dad.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's been a very common thing. So lots of reasons men come to men's work. One of the key ones I see is that, well, I've just not been around men that much. Or when I have been around men, it was a bit brutal and I didn't really like it. You know, so there's a sort of, it's almost like reintroducing men to the idea of I can be with other men in a healthy, playful, joyful way and supportive way. And I think that was a huge historical shift. I think that caused quite a deep wound. That could be why we're where we are now. You know, could be, you know, that we tend not to be around men very much when we're at a young age. Where's dad? He's absent or he's at work. And that might be one of the reasons why we're seeing a change now, because that's changing. That's changing too. All those roles are changing.
Yeah.
And so we're a really interesting time of people reintegrating. Really, masculine come back to feminine, feminine come back to masculine, and creating a really joyful, enjoyable mush in the middle of what it means to be human. Just what it means to be human.
When I was in Kenya, I met a guy, and he was a Maasai warrior, and his initiation into manhood was killing a lion. It's what they do. And it was very much a group effort where all the men get together and you are totally, intimately in connection with each other, because one makes the wrong noise or the wrong move and someone's dead. And also, it was for him to kill the lion, so they were risking their lives to enable him to kill it before it kills them or someone else kills it. So it was that intimate. And it was so natural to go in as an intimate, connected body of men to do something. That's a bit extreme, and it's hardly British.
And it's not hard to do.
But thankfully we have Ocado. But for me, the theme with that, it reminds me of, you know, as well as the Men Speak men's groups, we've got ManKind, and we even did Men Rocco when we went to Morocco. And it's a group of men getting together, and it's like, where are we? What do we need to achieve? What adventure would we like? And going out together. It could be separately, it could be together. But it's like the recognition, the belonging, being part of that community, belonging to a tribe. And I would say, this is something we were saying before we went on, it's a very basic need for men to have community, to be amongst other men. And what I love about both MKP and Men Speak, and I think a whole lot more that's going on.
Yeah, there's lots of men's organisations.
Yeah,
and stuff.
And what they're doing is, what's keeping us apart from each other? What are we scared of, and what do we need to know in ourselves and let go of and live beyond, so we can be one of?
Yeah, and with, you know, and yes, there's all these different organisations, but I bet you can strip it all away. In my own personal views, you can strip it all away, and if it just comes down to men showing up to help other men, that's enough, and that's radical in its own way.
And you know what? And also, I would say to take the piss of other men, because it's really important.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what hasn't been said actually. is I think it's easy for it to look like it's all about men, right? And actually, how I see it is, when I go to other men to help me become a better man, it's because I want to be a better man for my community, not for me. So that's going to have a positive effect on the women in my life, the other men in my life who are not involved in men's work, the children in my life, the elders in my life. They, the better I am, the better the symptoms are of my behaviour.
Yeah.
You know, so I wouldn't like it to be. I wouldn't like us to be misconstrued into sort of looking like we just want to make the world better for men.
No,
That's certainly not my aim. I'm just trying to keep my side of the road clean.
Yeah.
That's the bit I know. The bit I know is men.
And I
I'm
know
one.
exactly. And if you're better, then everyone around you is going to be better, and so it goes on. I love the way my wife can whinge about, what, do you have to run another group, and then my friends come and pick me up to go to the forest, and it's like, do you have to? But she always says to the men in the groups and to my friends, I love that he goes, I love that he doesn't stay around my apron strings, and I always get him back better. So we need to stop, because we have such hectic, important superhero lives.
Yeah, it's happy hour.
Exactly. Right, so, say the website one last time.
ManKind Project, UKI.org.
And mine is mensgroups.co.uk. Check them all out, and I know it works the same for the ManKind Project as well as my organisation. It's not cults. Come, play, hang out. If it fits, wear it for a bit. If it fits for a long time, great. If you want to pick up some tools and move on, do that. It really doesn't matter. There's lots of sweeties for everyone. So, we need to stop, and I hope my nice Paul Smith white shirt is not sweaty. I was drenched, so I had to wear this. I was going to just wear a jacket without a shirt.
The excitement of being in my presence.
It was! Cool. Catch you next Wednesday at 1.